Brad Keselowski, talk to me.
It's Ted from Consumer Cellular, and this is your wake-up call.
All right, time to wake race fans up.
Exactly. They don't have to keep overpaying for cell service.
But they need speed.
Consumer Cellular has the same fast, reliable nationwide coverage as the leading carriers.
Is switching lanes easy?
Oh yeah. Right now, get a plan as low as $15 a month for the first year.
Vroom, vroom.
Just call 1-888-FREEDOM or visit consumercellular.com for promotional details.
I'm your host, Annie Bowles, and this is News du Jour. Welcome to News du Jour. You may be wondering, why am I, Annie Bowles, here hosting this podcast? I usually start by telling people I'm a political baby. You see, my parents met working on Capitol Hill. By the time I was 2, I had been in my first political commercial and even got lost crawling around the West Wing. Don't worry, Al Gore found me. My family then moved abroad when I was 9, and I attended an international school in Brussels with kids from all over the world. And it is this type of global perspective that I also bring to our show. I graduated from American University in DC after studying political science and art history, as well as interning on both sides of Capitol Hill. I even interned down the hall from where my parents met. I'm now pursuing a professional certificate in journalism at NYU in conjunction with Rolling Stone magazine. I guess I was always that friend in the group who cared deeply about not just what was going on politically, but also globally. I often kept my own friends informed through high school and into young adulthood, so I guess I've always done a version of this show. I'm genuinely passionate about following the news, and I'm here to break it down for you guys every weekday. We always strive to be a calmer space to get your news. Or, as one listener put it, like getting your news from a well-informed bestie. I'm so glad you're here. Hey everyone, welcome back to the News du Jour. Today we have a couple reminders and then 2 mini stories and then 3 longer stories. It's going to be a packed episode. Let's jump in. First and foremost, I wanted to remind you guys that the State of the Union is tonight. And just as a refresher, in case you are not from the U.S. or have never seen a State of the Union address, they're where the president will summarize where we are at as a country in one speech before Congress and really before the whole world. This one will take place on Thursday at 8 p.m. Central Time. I will be watching, and obviously Thursday's today. As always, I will have a breakdown for you guys on Monday's episode. It will never be the next day, but the day after that. And it'll just be a recap of what was said, but also little things that I noticed, you know, being someone who has interned on both sides of Capitol Hill and watched pretty much every single one of these since middle school, different takeaways from different instances. And I'll just break those down for you guys on Monday's episode. So stay tuned on that. Also, I hope you guys had a chance to listen to our bonus episode on the April Wilkins case that went live yesterday. You guys, if you follow me on social, you know I really put my blood, sweat, and tears into this episode. I drove all the way out to Mabel Bassett Correctional Facility and I interviewed inmate April Wilkins, who is serving a life sentence there, because her case is such a compelling one to me, given what we now understand about abusers and the way that they operate. This story is one that needs to be heard. It needs to be told. And if you did listen and it hit home for you in any way, I've received a lot of messages and text messages in the past 24 hours letting me know. A lot of you, were really glad that I included the phone call at the top. And there's a reason I included that. It is maddening, and it gives you just a glimpse into what April was up against. But anywho, I'll let you guys listen for yourself. But my one ask with this is just, if April's story hit home in any way for you, please consider sharing this episode or any of our content on the subject that might be on social media, or sharing it with somebody. Share April's story in whatever format makes sense for you, because I feel like spreading the word and raising awareness that these things actually happen is kind of step one in making sure they don't continue to happen. So anyway, I am happy to answer any questions you guys might have about that case, but because we have such a long episode, I wanted to go ahead and jump into the episode for today. But please hit me up if you have any questions. So for our first mini story today, a Houthi missile attack has now killed 2 crew members on a commercial vessel in the Red Sea, which, of course, this has been their goal by sending missiles at commercial vessels and military ships. This was their goal, was to hurt people. Obviously, that's why they're attacking. Luckily, it hasn't happened until right now, because we have weapon systems to detect missiles and to shoot them down. That said, that doesn't make this any less tragic. And again, this was a commercial vessel. I'm not sure which country it was from, but this is why the U.S. has been fighting back against this aggression. For our second mini story, the armorer on the set of the film Rust, where a young woman was killed, was found to be guilty of involuntary manslaughter. Some have said that this 26-year-old woman was a scapegoat, but with her literal job being to make sure that the weaponry on set is used safely, I'd say she's probably the right person to be held accountable. What's more, Alec Baldwin, who actually shot the gun that he did not know was loaded, has also been indicted in regards to these charges. So she's not the only one facing consequences in this young woman's death. The armorer faces a sentence of up to 18 months behind bars. Next up for today, the Haitian gangs. Guys, things have really reached a boiling point when it comes to Haiti, and we need to talk about it. So the crisis in Haiti that we've been covering for well over a year is officially spiraling out of control. If you remember from our previous reporting on Haiti, gangs have essentially ruled the roost for quite some time. They regularly abducted random citizens to hold them for ransom. So much so that regular citizens literally had kidnapping insurance, you guys, so that their families would be able to for sure pay the ransoms quickly so as to get them home. So the gangs not only had physical control, the police and the military did not want to go anywhere near them, but they were also amassing these huge amount of funds because they were holding all these ransoms all the time. And so they were slowly gaining financial control over the country as well. Then there was the assassination of Haiti's president, and this left an obvious power vacuum. But now, after surviving all of this, they have declared a state of emergency in Haiti just recently. Why? Well, the gangs freed thousands, not hundreds, thousands of prisoners, you guys, from the Haitian prisons in Port-au-Prince. And they are calling for the ousting of Prime Minister Ariel Henry. And luckily, Henry is out of the country right now, visiting Kenya. This timing doesn't seem like an accident, though, with him being away. The gangs are attempting to overtake the airport. They were doing that on Monday. It seems like, local government bodies have fought them off. But if they do take over the airport, this could obviously make it difficult for the prime minister to return to the country safely in order to resume his duties. And so far, he has stayed deafeningly silent. International governments are urging their citizens to leave Haiti as soon as possible for their own safety, and definitely don't travel there right now. There has been a vast uptick in violence since these prisoners have been released en masse. And according to the International Organization for Migration, about 15,000 people, that's an estimate obviously, but about 15,000 people have already fled the capital of Haiti in the past 3 days to avoid what many news outlets describe as quote unquote indiscriminate killings at the hands of these gangs and the freed prisoners. It's also important to note that widespread sexual violence has also been reported in this area since the beginning of the year, and we know that sexual violence most often targets women. So what is being done about all of this? Well, several things are already in the works. The UN is assembling nations to pledge troops and funding. So far, according to Reuters, the Bahamas, Bangladesh, Barbados, Benin, and Chad have already committed troops, and about $11 million has been raised. The UN is coming under a lot of criticism, however, for not acting sooner, because obviously this is a crisis that has been slowly mounting for quite some time. Restoring police and military security in the country remains the top priority, because while food and medicine in the area are really scarce and badly needed, we cannot get those items to people safely if they do not have safe access to receive them. So again, police and military, it has to happen first. Stability in the country has to happen first. And again, the international community is really rallying right now to decide who is going to act and how. We will definitely keep you guys posted on this unfolding crisis. So next up for today, Nikki Haley wins Vermont, but suspends her campaign. So the reason that this is the headline from Super Tuesday is because we obviously already covered at the top of yesterday's episode how Trump had won so many states already. And now we know he has officially won all but one yesterday, Vermont. So Trump is the clear winner here. The voters have spoken. But Haley did win DC and Vermont, which is historical, earning her 89 delegates to Trump's 1,004. After these results, however, we also know that Nikki suspended her presidential bid. It was bound to happen sooner or later, but maybe she's contented to have now made the history books. She said of the decision, quote, "I have no regrets, and although I will no longer be a candidate, I will not stop using my voice for the things I believe in," end quote. And now, with the last Republican contender out of the race, a rematch between Biden and Trump is set and will likely be the last political race for both figures. One other interesting tidbit that I picked up is that Mitch McConnell, although he is, stepping down from his leadership role, and it seems like he may be on the road to retirement, he also was recently admitting that he's at odds with most of his party, ideologically. But he came out to kiss the ring, you guys. He had long been an opponent of President Trump, someone who was critical of President Trump, but he just came out and endorsed him. That wasn't on my bingo card, I'll say that much. And we may see much more of this type of behavior within the Republican Party now that Trump is the official nominee for the third time. And lastly for today, a healthcare system cyber attack. So it's just now coming out that about 2 weeks ago, Change Healthcare, which is a group that provides essential functions to the U.S. healthcare system, things like payment processing, insurance claims, and more, it was down. At the time, they said that it was just quote unquote currently unavailable. But before they knew it, the language was escalating from a cybersecurity problem into a full-blown crisis. And this is the exact type of cybersecurity hack that the US government has been worried about and warning us about. Russia, Iran, and more notably China love to play these kinds of games in this digital world. Obviously, a company like this has access to incredibly personal data, more so than like any other industry, I would think. You know, your medical history, your social security number, your banking info, your email address, your mailing address, your phone number, your relatives' information, maybe login information, and so on and so forth. They have information like that on a mass amount of people. On their website, Change Healthcare reports that they conduct, quote, 14 billion clinical, financial, and operational transactions annually, end quote. It's hard to even get your head around a number like 14 billion. And if they were to access people's login, hackers could potentially use this as like a domino effect where they suddenly these bad actors have access to a number of different sites using these users' login info. So how did this happen, and what exactly do we know about who committed this act? Well, right now they're playing things really close to the chest, understandably. And it seems like the federal government is not super involved as of yet. That's just what I read as of right now, which is kind of mind-blowing because, you know, it's been 2 weeks. But the group has said that applications called ConnectWise and Screen Connect are involved. So I'm going to try and chase down more information, and hopefully we'll be learning more about this hack soon, because this is obviously incredibly concerning, and I'm very curious who all was affected by this. Sorry, that was my child on there. Anyway, that is the news du jour. Today, I wanted to leave you guys with the quote, which this is apt given that my child interrupted our podcast. Don't get so busy making a living that you forget to make a life. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe on whatever podcast platform you use to listen. A rate and review on that platform or a shout out on social media would mean the world to us and help us to be able to keep creating the news du jour and reach more people who need a calmer space to consume the news. But the best way to support all of our work is to become a patron at www.patreon.com/sugarfree media, and that is also linked in our show notes. You can follow us on social media at newsdujour.podcast on both Instagram and TikTok. You can follow my personal account at It's Annie Bowles on both platforms as well. Any little noises you may hear in the background are my rescue pup. He has a little separation anxiety and always records with me. We appreciate you listening and look forward to telling you about the news again next time on News du Jour.
Broadcasting from Oklahoma.